Welcome to OWAD today. I'm Sophia, pilot into the universe of Chinese. Let's continue unpacking some supposedly classical China era's character. And yesterday we talked about Hou, right? Wang Hou Jiang Xiang Ning You Zhong Hu. And so it's a continuation of the different roles of the ruling class. So Jiang is today's character, and it's general. I translate it as general. So basically, it's a military leader. That's what Xiang is about. And if you see on the top, there's a simplified Chinese using by mainland China, who simplified the Chinese into simpler version. You can see in this example, it's just one dot removed. It's not that simpler, just one dot. But in the 1950s or late early 60s, so that the literacy level of the country can increase because it's simpler version of Chinese. I mean, pros and cons, right? And this traditional Chinese is used by Taiwan, Hong Kong, all that, you know, Cantonese speaking or non-mainland China language circles that they would use the traditional. So you may encounter both when on your Chinese learning journey. But I grew up in the simplified Chinese. And because I'm right now doing this diving in through history to try to discover the meaning, like why my ancestors would make such a meaning, how they make the meaning, how to make sense of their meaning making process. So I'm, self-appointed as this meaning maker. Along with you, I may be right most of the time, but occasionally I have no clue. I will tell you. So traditional Chinese, you can see here, okay, besides this one extra dot there, it's also more complicated on the left side versus the simplified just two dots. It kind of giving up the structure over here. So if we look at 2,000 years ago dictionary, which is a script language, which is like at the dawn of the long history recording that most of the characters use in this way. So this gave us three different components that we can see. And here you can see three components as well. So the top left, top right is made of two dots there, right? It's not just one. The reason why is because we have a very similar looking character. If it's simplified like this, that means evening. It means actually the crescent shape of the moon. The whole thing is made of to carve out this shape of the moon shape, crescent moon. And that would be a totally different concept versus this with two dots actually here is meat symbol. And the meat in ancient Chinese would symbolize muscle power because we recognize that the contraction power from the muscles were what actually started from human muscle power, toiling on the farmland, eventually capture farm animals to do the hard, heavy labor, right, of this plowing through the land kind of thing. So the muscles, either as a human or animal muscles, symbolize power. That was what's powered the agrarian society back then. So that's muscle power. The left side is a type of weaponry in ancient times. As you can see, the pointy things, or it could be the weaponry shelf, the container of the weaponry. I don't exactly know, but this is related to fighting, related to training to be stronger, something like that. So it's equipment, it's gear in today's lingo. Okay, it's gear, and this is a muscle. The bottom right is three-finger hand symbol. Chinese simplify both hand and foot into three fingers or three toes. And specifically, this is your right hand, because if you look at here, it's reaching from the bottom right of the screen. We look at this 2D frame, right, as a screen, you reach in, and then there's one horizontal line pointing about 1 inch down your wrist. That is Chinese pulse reading location. And I guess every Chinese, at least in ancient times, when they go to doctors, that's one of the first things for diagnostic testing of how sick you are, or what type of sickness it could be. So this pulse reading thing, all the doctors and the patients would know what they were doing. So that character was used in multiple situations to mean measurement or measured. Originally, it means inch because that's 1 inch down. That's the standard. But then this means you have some quantifiable rules or measurement to conduct things. It's kind of, well, if you know Chinese cooking, when we cook, we just throw in stuff, kind of eyeball it, not as scientifically put things into measuring cup to know how many. Chinese is it's an art. It's not a science when it comes to cooking, right? And of course, that's like honed by years of cooking, how things turn out, right? And then fine-tuned muscle memory of things to know how much exactly spices you put in. So this measurement, however, do exist in our culture, just not applied in cooking in most cases. So this measurement next to the gear, the muscle, is the essential rule or role of what it takes to be a general, to be a military leader. Basically, this leader need to have calculated resource deployment kind of calculation, right? That's why it's quantified. It got to be measurable, measured, take measured steps to deploy the muscle power and the gear on a battlefield. I find it very succinct and straight to the point what a leader is about. It's about it's a trade up, like a trade of pros and cons of different ways, and then make the decisions of deployment of the resources. So in this case, muscle represent the soldiers, and then the soldiers, okay? And wait, soldiers, okay, I always confuse that one. And the gear, the equipment. So two major human source and versus the hardwares, the technologies, the manpower put in the war setting. And of course, this leadership then can carry over to today's business setting, right? You're basically the resource distributors, you know, where to put things, the whole portfolio of where you value things, how you position your resources to make a move against a competitive market, something like that. That's the leader. So that's 将 Chinese concept. 武将 martial leader, 武 specifically talking about military. So this is, well, the reason why we have that is because in Chinese, we have leaders in both martial and non-martial settings. We have 文. 文 means text, means literature, means verbal communication. So leaders about communication. And this one, martial, means leaders about war. So I guess that's roughly ancient times of for a regime to be successful. In wartime, it will need war leaders. In peaceful times, it will need communication leaders. So there are two types. 将军, 将, okay, we know this pronounced as 将, but somehow Chinese adapt the tone in this context. When it pairs with 军, 军 means army, the whole, I guess, foot soldiers. When it pairs with 军, then somehow it's not a 将军, it's 将军. Both are flat tones. And 将军 means specifically the army leader. And again, 王侯将相宁有种乎 is questioning of their genetic, I guess, genetic privilege like, do they have special seed? Seed means your genes. Do they have any special seeding that they are in the position of Wang, the king, the ruler of the country, hold the brothers of the king, and Jiang is in today's the marshal, the military leader, and Xiang is the minister, the Wenjiang, the communication officers, the PRs, I guess, in ancient times. Well, I guess in ancient times you don't really need PR. That's an interesting thing. I guess the ancient PR would be historians who would paint a pretty picture of the current country leader to, of course, for later generations to view this particular king of this era favorably. So that's the ancient PR, I guess, in today's context. So here we go, is a general picture. And I guess for a long time in human history, wars were fought on horses, and the war leaders would be, this such horse riders. There you go. Thank you very much for your time. See you another